Hello folks, this is the Black Weasel, and today welcome towards One Piece chapter 788802222, and today we're going to go ahead and get right to it. So we picked off from Sanji's wanted poster being only he is wanted only alive for some strange reason. The name of the chapter is called Zoo. It's the island that the rest of the gang, the other Luffy gang, was heading towards after them being chased by Big Mom. And there is covered as Luffy in samurai gear, has red markings all over his face. Well, and there's a wallpaper of all in food with hippos. One Piece. Thou should eat to live, not live to eat. Now, the narrator said Luffy and his crew headed for Zero, but what wasn't him there? Robin yells out, "Those are huge, be careful. There's some rocks falling down from the sky." And some people yell out, "Hail!" And they're the size of the human heads. And Bartholomew says, "Well, they're making holes in the deck." Luffy stops by, "Please take our cover inside." And Luffy says, "No way, I want to help out." And Frankie yells out, "Which way are you heading? Where's your navigator? Point him out." And Bartholomew says, "We don't have a navigator. We were originally gangsters, you see." And then Usopp yells out, "We're in a freaking new world here." Oh yeah, they weren't gangsters. There was like a small time mafia crew. They chopped off human thumbs. That's what Gambia said. And Gambia yells out, "Hello, hey Grams, I'm at Gambia. Now it's hailing right now." And then Bartholomew says, "Yeah, we always call back home whenever we're in trouble." And Usopp yells out, "I see you have someone who's good with the teas back home, but either way, hurry up." And Gambia says, "Hey, I got it. You know how our deck always has this glue that doesn't come off?" Some people yell, "Yeah, that always takes so much time." And he says, Gambia says, "She said to collect the hail, wrap it up in cloth, and press it on the glue to cool it." And the guy says, "Oh, it came off so easily." And Usopp yells out, "We don't need that kind of knowledge now." And this person gets hit in the head with some hail, and he goes unconscious. And Usopp yells out, "You see, we're too late." And Gambia says she should have put sugar on the bumps. And Usopp yells out, "Enough with that." And Usopp and Luffy yells out, "Oh my God, the ship's gonna sink! Nami, save us!" And Usopp yells out, "After all that considered, we still chose the wrong ship to board." And Zoro says, "Well, we gotta do something about it ourselves then." And Law asks, "Are these people serious? Like, don't forget, these are the Bartholomew gangs that's taking them." And Frankie yells out, "If only we had Sunny's equipment with us right now." And Robin's somewhat laughing, "Phoo phoo phoo, how lively." And Zoro asks, "Alright, put up a barrier, won't you?" And then Bartholomew said, what Graham said. Bartholomew says, "We'll be punished by God if we win against nature." And Zoro says, "Go back to land, you're still afraid then." And Bartholomew yells out, "Man, we'll be safe now in the hands of Straw who not even God could stop them." And Usopp yells out, it's probably Usopp, says, "I'm surprised you lot made it this far like that." And the scene changes towards the ship shoots something as sinking that was about to eat it. The ship falls down a waterfall. There's another storm ahead. And we go back towards Navy headquarters in the New World. And somebody says, "Sir, the 8 old pirates that were once under Whitebeard's wing have been wiped out." And somebody asks, "What, him again?" And the same person said, "Yes, sir, Edward Weeble of the Shichibukai." What the hell? So the new Shichibukai is this guy named Edward Weeble. And here we go. It's that guy. And Kizaru. He's back in the scene again. He's just chilling in his chair. He asks, how many does this make then? All those captains affiliated with Whitebeard. And somebody says 16 of them, sir. And as usual, it starts with a dispute and ends with an entire town put to the ground. And he also says, "We're looking at about 600 dead." I'm pretty sure that the person that's talking to Kizaru is Green Bull, a Raikou. Not Kizaru is lit up a cigarette. Oh, it's just some people. The same person says he brings out destruction wherever he goes, sir. And pardon me for saying this, but can he really be allowed to do that as well as Chichibukai? And Kizaru says, "Oh, what do we do?" And then the same person, of course, him being Whitebeard, Edward Newgate's flesh and blood is one thing, and he's trying to do some still. I find him questionable. Oh my God, it's Whitebeard's son. He has a son, and so who's the mother then? What the heck? And then Kizaru says, whether that's true or not, it's none of our business. Damn. And then Kizaru says, it doesn't matter where he comes from. One thing for sure, he's a pirate with power that should be feared. It's like looking back at a younger version of Whitebeard himself all over again. That's strength, at least. He has a long fall of hair. He has the same business. He has a Bicento just like Whitebeard, but I think it's somewhat smaller. And Edward Weeble says, I had enough of those fools already. Repeat that crap over and over again. How come he wasn't on the scene at Marine for? Where was this man been? This guy says, oh, Whitebeard's son are the men that are in this crew. That's all there is in that crap. And he says, well, go ask my mama then. What the hell? This is now we have a full introduction of the 7th Chichibukai. His name is Whitebeard Jr. or better yet, self-proclaimed Whitebeard Jr. His full name is Edward Weeble. And then he says, she told you I'm Whitebeard's son. My beard's white too. And what the hell? He has a 480 million berries. So he's 20 less of Luffy. So he's really, really strong. He looks goofy looking. And then some girl says, that's right, dearie. Pay no mind to those fools that were playing house with your father. After all, you're the flesh and blood of the man that was once known as the strongest part of them all. Bobby's very own son. And this lady is I am the woman that he loved. What the heck? And this is Weebro's mother, self-proclaimed Whitebeard's lover, Miss Bucking. And then Miss Bucking says, oh, get a hold of yourself, precious one. And Weeble yells out, oh, stop, mama. And Miss Bucking says, look at this. And Weeble asks, huh, is that a mirror? And Miss Bucking says, it's not, this is a picture of Whitebeard. And Weeble says, oh, I thought it was a mirror. And Miss Bucking said, well, there's no way you aren't father and son if you look this much alike, you silly boy. And Weeble says, okay, sorry, mama. I don't get how this guy can be a Chichibukai, but he's a lot stronger than Doflamingo, Gagomoria, Akuma, and all the other guys to begin with. Anyways, Miss Bucking says, it's alright, dearie, I'm not mad because I love you. And Weeble says, oh, mama. And there's a panel where a news coup, he apparently dropped off the paper to give towards Miss Bucking. And Miss Bucking said, alright, let's go. Tell me what you got to do now. And Weeble says, I forgot. What the heck? And this guy says, we have to find Marco the Phoenix and put an end to all the remaining members of the Whitebeard Pirates. That's what you have to do. What the hell? Why did you want to get of their own Whitebeard Pirates? And Miss Bucking said, your father, Newgate, must have left something of great value behind for you. And she also said, we can't have those fakes taking it from under your nose, no? And And Weeble says, "Oh, I see. But I'm more interested in getting revenge on this Blackbeard guy that killed my papa." So there could be a chance of Whitebeard Jr. against Blackbeard, and Kizaru said that he's like the younger version of Whitebeard in his stronger days. But at the same time, what's missing from Edward Weeble is the quake power. So we're looking at raw strength here for him. And Weeble said, "I'm gonna shred him to pieces. He isn't getting away with this." And Miss Bucky said, "Oh, silly boy, revenge is sold yesterday already. You won't get a single berry from it." A news coup is flying away, and Miss Bucky said, "Money is what matters these days. Money, you must find it." She says that you won't get a single berry from it, so it's still. I think it's still that Blackbeard is still worth 0 berries. He does not have a bounty on him. And she's reading the paper, and Miss Bucky says, Weeble asks, "What's wrong, Mama?" And Miss Bucky says, "They're taking on Doflamingo." She says, "It's that boy again, Garb's grandson. Apparently he's the one Marco protected during the Summit Wars." And Edward Weeble says, "So maybe he might know something about Marco then? Should we go wring it out of him?" Anyways, the scene ends on that island that Weeble Jr. was on. Anyways, now we go towards, how much time we got? Alright, we go back towards a week later above the Goron Luffy Senpai. And somebody said, "The fox tooth thing, I can't see a thing." And somebody yells out, "Blur." And Zoro asks, "What are your pirates like you getting seasick for?" And then Bartholomew said, Graham said that we should chew some gum to help. And Luffy's laughing, and Usopp's yelling out. So that's what that glue was about then? It wasn't glue but gum? And Gambia says, "Boss, we're seeing something 2 o'clock from here, blur." And Bartholomew asks, What, blur?" He says, "I can't tell in the fog, but it looks like a mountain or some sort of monster." Ugh. And then I think Frankie's yelling, "Make up your mind, it can't be both, blur." No, it's probably the other pirates. And then somebody yells out, "But it looks like it just moved a little just now, blur." "Aren't you just seasick then, blur?" And then Luffy asks, "If it's a moving mile, then I have to check it out." And Usopp covers his mouth, says up, "Stop it, you. We need to focus on getting out of this fog for now. We're dead meat if we crash into a mountain or something." And Law says, "What up, God? Wait up, God." And Usopp's getting flattered, and he yells like, "Oh, God, oh, you. Stop flattering me. 200 million, man. You say nah." And then Frankie's getting mad because Frankie is still worth 94 million berries. Because he got really beaten bad by Senior Pink, so the Marines and the world government don't count him as like a stronger threat. That's kind of messed up. And Law says that we already checked out every admiral, haven't we? And Law says, "Look, the river's car pointing that way." And Luffy says, "Alright, doesn't that mean your crewmates are somewhere there then?" And Luffy says, somebody says, "I heard of an island that is protected by thick fog and a current that makes it hard to sail in." And then Frankie yells out, "The wind's blowing in the opposite direction too. Full the sails then, we're rowing in." And then the pirates yell out, "Aye, aye, sir, blah." And then Robin yells out, "You can do better than that." No, Frankie yells out, "You can do better than that." And Robin says, "Usopp, you're looking a little pale. Do you want some gum?" And then Usopp yells out, "No, I thought I could run away from reality, that's all." And something happens to the ship, and some people say, "Huh?" And Luffy says, "Wait, are we in zoo?" And then Bartholomew says, "No, this is definitely weird." And then Usopp yells out, "That looks really bad, we should turn back." And then Law said, "No, this is where we should be." And then Luffy yells out, "Traga, you, wait, what?" And then it turns out the elephant is called Zoo. And Zoo is an island that's located on top of an elephant, hence the name. Zoo, what? And then somebody asks, it's actually alive then? And then Law says that it's an elusive island that's never in the same place, always constantly moving. And then Law says it's not exactly land either. That's why the log post can't take us there. This is my first time being here too. And Law also says, if we're looking at his back, then it's highly probable that Black Leg and the rest of them might have already made it there then. And then Robin yells out, so we're chasing an elephant that's moving away then? And then Law says, yeah, so get ready to land. Can we get some rations? Then somebody asks, why should I give you any? And then Law asks, fine, could Straw Y'all get some? And then Bartholomew says, bring everything we have stored out here. And Kimon says, so this is Zoo. There is some really strange things out in the outside world. He asks, I wonder if Momosuke is doing well. And Kimon says, hey, I heard that there's a tribe that hates people in general. And Law says, yeah, the Mink tribe. They got a history of staying isolated away from people for about 1,000 years already. And somebody yells out, 1,000 years on an elephant's back? And Luffy says, so. And so Luffy asks, it's been living for 1,000 years already. Is it really just an elephant then? So we get a picture of whether or not we get a picture of the front of the elephant, and it turns out to be a skull of some sort. So they reach on the island Zoo, and that is the end of Dressrosa, I believe. Yeah, there is no break next week, which is really good. So now we're in the common stages of One Piece. So now just getting onto a new island and away the hell from Dressrosa. Now I'm looking back, and turns out, oh my goodness, like Edward Weeble. What was this guy doing the Whitebeard War? Oh well. He's alright.